Welcome into another edition of the Hops and Spirits podcast, and we're closing out March with another flight night, and it's going to be a fun one. But before we get to that, don't forget to check out some of our past episodes. We just finished up spring beers and spring cocktails with Kevin Patterson of the Beer Trap in Lexington, and cocktails with the guys from West Main Crafting Co., Jake Solik. From there, and we've had so many other wonderful episodes. You got to check them out. You also got to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Hop Spirits, all one word. You'll find a lot of great things that we do, including our Drinking Buddies Club monthly giveaway, which you just need to click on the link, sign up, and you're entered to win some amazing prizes, including some fun things from the beer fridge and the bourbon bar. And also check out our 60-second highlights every Sunday night. That's at Hop Spirits, all one word, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. But we're here to talk beer and have a fun flight night. And who do we have with us? Well, depending on how it looks on the screen, I never really know. I want to say it's going to look exactly how it looks right now, but I never know. So depending on where you guys are at is how I'll introduce you. I always like to go ladies first. Welcome back, Kinsey Bernhard, host of Boys Are From Mars and Park podcast, porchdrinking.com writer and bartender at Gallant Fox. Kinsey, glad to have you back.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
And filling in for Derek on our flight night crew is a friend of One Sip Beer Review, Seth Hendricks. Seth, welcome in.
Thanks for having me, Jonathan.
And the star of the night, our big guest, is Evan Rouse. Did I say that right? He is the co-founder and chief innovation officer for Braxton Brewing in Northern Kentucky, or more precisely, Covington, Kentucky. Evan, welcome in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, we've got a cool flight tonight, just 3 beers, but hey, to me, kind of a little bit of the spectrum. The very first one that we're going to crack open is the garage beer. It just a nice, simple can, premium lager. So, Evan, before we get into all the other history and even my icebreaker, because I went out of order, can you talk a little bit about the garage beer?
Yeah, absolutely. So garage beer, 4% premium lager. Mine is green currently for St. Patty's Day. I'm sitting in our barrel house tap room because we're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. So I'm just having the draft version. Now, 4% premium lager, really designed to just be an easy sipper, perfect for hot day in the pool after mowing the grass. Light, crisp, a little bit of a noble hop character. Just a nice all-around easy drinking beer.
No, I definitely get that on the initial one, because surprisingly, I've had a lot of your beers. I have not had any of the 3 that we are trying tonight, which I find rather interesting.
Awesome.
And I've always wanted to try the garage beer, but I'm always like, it's just a lager. I don't know if I want to pick that up at the store, especially when you've had your the Hefeweizen, the Dortmunders, you name it out there, that I always enjoy. But I like this one. It's an easy going beer that I could pick up any time of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. Currently it jumped to our number 1 seller. That was previously held by Storm.
Okay.
It's now available in 6 packs of 12-ounce cans, 15 packs of 12-ounce cans. We've got 16-ounce cans and 19.2-ounce cans. I believe we actually have it in cases as well.
So just a little bit of everything then.
Yeah.
Well, Kenzie, Seth?
I was gonna say I have a very funny story when it comes to garage beer. I think you guys had just released it in the cases, the 15 cases, and I was buying it, and I just happened to mention to the gentleman who was reading out, and I was like, oh yeah, I really like this beer. It's really crushable. And the guy looks at me, he's like, I love that you called this beer crushable. He had never heard that word before. He's like, crushable? I was like, yeah, you can drink a bunch of them and it's crushable. And he was like super, he just loved that word crushable when describing a beer.
That is a great way to describe this one.
And Seth, what do you think there?
No, it's very good. I kind of describe it as the beer, just something you can drink whenever. But it is very good.
Now I have a question, because I wasn't sure how this was going to go. I'm guessing the name comes from just your affinity for kind of that garage atmosphere where you started brewing. Is that kind of how the name came for garage beer?
Yep.
Is it that simple?
We had the name picked out before we had the beer finished. We had always just kind of talked about how we wanted to name a beer garage beer. It's kind of that, pay homage to the garage, where we got started, um, all the different companies that started out of a garage, and what a perfect beer to have named after the garage. You can sit in your garage and wrench on cars or woodworking or whatever it might be, and have a garage beer.
I love that. Now, because like I said, I did things out of order because it's Monday and time changing and all that when we recorded this. The one tough question that I normally start off with, that I teased you all beforehand. So it's a nice little icebreaker. We're a full year into this lovely thing that I'm just not going to name anymore. What's one thing that you really have missed being able to do that you never thought you might have missed?
It's a good question.
Yeah, see, I'll go first just to break the ice. For me, it's art festivals. Never thought I'd miss those because I don't really have a ton of art in the house or anything. I just always enjoyed going, seeing what they did. And, because of where we live, I also enjoy having a beverage at those because we have fun at our, woodland and things like that, where all the breweries are out there too. But that is one thing I have randomly missed. And I'm hopeful for this summer that we might be able to have again.
I'd probably say one thing that I miss that I never thought I'd miss is, it's going to be a little funny, but bellying up to my own bar. Because if you would have told me at any point in time that I wouldn't be able to do it, it's really weird to have tap rooms where you're not allowed to sit at the bar. Like you said, it's been going on for a year, and that was kind of the employee tradition, especially on Fridays, was get done working, go sit at the bar, have a shift pint, hang out, and really build relationships with your fellow coworkers. And it just hasn't been able to happen.
Yeah, I would definitely say sitting at a bar. That's kind of one of my favorite things just to do. If you're just wanting a beer, I usually just go to a bar by myself if I know the bartender, sit there and chat with them. Now I feel like if I want to talk to the bartender, I have to quickly squeeze in a conversation while I'm ordering, or sit close enough but at a table and kind of have a conversation from 5 feet away, which just isn't as fun. And as a bartender, I miss having people sit at the bar. It's not the same when your patrons are all sitting in chairs further away from you, and they order their beer and then they go sit down, and it's just weird. It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy, not being able to go up to a bar. I think the one thing that I missed that didn't really think I would, I didn't realize how much I communicate with people out in public, like just even at the grocery store, just with facial expressions, and now you're really not seeing any of that. I don't know if I make a joke, I don't really know if that guy's smiling at me or not. So it's kind of odd with that. But
depending on your joke, it's hard to say, Seth, depending on your joke.
Some of them are pretty bad.
Now back into the actual questions that have to do with Braxton. Evan, how did you guys get started? I mean, I know you were working at a brew pub type place beforehand, but how did you guys get started, and how did that go for you all?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of a interesting story. We were dropping my brother off to college, Jake, who's our CEO now. Dropping him off to college at Indiana University, and went to a little place called Upland Brewing Company for lunch, just their little tap room there in their pub. And at the time, I would have been a sophomore or a junior in high school, somewhere around the age of 16 or 17, and we sat down. The waitress came over and kind of walked us through the fact that every beer they served was made in-house, gave us a tour of the facility, really kind of piqued my interest because I was always interested in science and math, and the home brewing really kind of meshed directly into those two fields. So after that, on the way home from IU, I told my dad that we were going to start home brewing, and I ordered a home brewing kit off my phone. So we're on the way home, 3-hour drive. He's like, okay, yeah, whatever. We're going to start brewing. Sure. A couple weeks later, all the stuff shows up and we start brewing. That first batch was awful. I mean, it was really bad. But we kept with it, and it kind of became just went from a passion to an obsession. from, the extract home brewing kits all the way to all grain, to converting my parents' 2-car garage into a functioning brewery, 11 taps. We hadn't parked cars in there in years. We'd brew almost every week. Got hooked up with a local homebrewing club called the Northern Kentucky Homebrewers, who were telling me that I should be entering homebrew competitions. At the time, I didn't even know they were a thing that you could do.
And how old were you at this point?
By the time I started entering competitions, I was probably 18. 18, yeah. Doing it all with my dad, still fun. And so entered competitions, started winning competitions. First competition off the bat, took a gold and best of show. So best beer in the entire competition. Blown away. So that really kind of moved the obsession and passion into like hyperdrive. I got a part-time job at a local home brewing shop in Florence, Kentucky, where I met more brewers and learned a ton. Ended up getting a job at Hofbrauhaus in Newport, cleaning draft lines every other week. I was there for 6-8 months. When their assistant brewer left, he took a job at West 6th in Lexington, and my boss offered me the job. So transitioned to night classes at NKU, and started being the assistant brewmaster there. I was there for about 3 years before I left to focus full-time on opening Braxton. Braxton got started about probably within the last 6-8 months of being at Hofbrau. Jake had graduated the Kelley School of Business at IU, was coming in town a lot. He was traveling a lot, and came into town, was trying the beers, was seeing us win all these medals, and had always wanted to start his own business. So he had the business brains, and he thought that with his network of people that we could get the private equity to fund Braxton. And so by, it was early to mid 2014, I left Hofbrauhaus, started focusing on Braxton. Construction started in October of 14, and we opened in March of 15.
So you were what, 22, 3 at that point?
Yeah, it was like right at 22.
Yeah, I was not thinking that at 22 or 23. I was just hoping to make it paycheck to paycheck. like, I mean, do you ever just go like, how did all this happen at that age? Because I mean, you started when you were 16. Now I've talked to others, over in the Starlight Distillery, Huber Winery in Southern Indiana, across from Louisville. They've made brandy and bourbon since they were about that age too. So it's not like it's completely weird, but to some people that is completely weird.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I'll be honest, I'm really bad at taking time to look back and focus, like, look where we've come. We get the opportunity to do it from time to time, but usually we're so heads down focused on what's next, where do we go, how do we grow. But this year, with kind of it being a little bit slower with everything going on, it really gave me a lot of time to kind of step back and really appreciate kind of what Braxton is today, how it's grown, a lot of it organically as well. And it's just something really, really cool. I was going through some old pictures last night, actually, back when I was brewing in the garage. And it's just a ton of great memories to think about brewing beer 10 gallons at a time to brewing beer thousands of gallons at a time. It really is awesome.
No, I love that. And I've always wondered what is how did you come up with the name?
Yeah, absolutely. So Braxton Brewing Company is named after the street that I grew up on. The garage on Braxton Drive is where the company was started, from home brewing every recipe to actually writing the business plan. Most of all of that took place in that garage. And so it really kind of full circle from garage beer to Braxton Brewing Company kind of comes full circle there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I kept wondering, I'm like, I know there's got to be a point to Braxton, because it's just a unique name that I've never, it's not like that's an everyday name that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I love that. And one thing that I wanted to ask you is, did you really tell your dad at 16 that you guys were going to open a brewery and brew together one day? Because you kind of touched on the car ride. I've read a few places where, you said this, it's almost like, like it just came to fruition.
Yeah, no. So the conversation didn't really go like that. I did tell him that we are going to start home brewing, which he was kidding. He was pretty excited about. He thought I was kidding until the equipment showed up in the mail, and then he got really excited about it. And then from there, once it really started, it was really just every home brewer's dream is to open a brewery. So it was always kind of like, oh, it'd be so cool. So we, vacations were usually planned around what breweries we could hit or where we would go based on what breweries we wanted to hit. And it really just always like, well, if we opened a brewery, we would do this or we'd focus on that. And it was really cool. You learn a lot of stuff looking back. Like when we opened our doors in 15, we launched our goal. We were going to originally launch without an IPA. We're lucky we didn't. That being said, though, we've changed our core IPA 3 times. And so now we've got a winner with Tropic Flair. But yeah, it's you learn a lot.
If you ever want to bring back Revamp, I would be very happy.
Yeah. I enjoyed Revamp. Early on, it was really hard for a brewery of our size to get consistent hop contracts. And so you'd have really, really good batches of Revamp and you'd have really bad batches of Revamp, with the only varying factor being where the hops came from. And so now we're fortunate enough that we have hop contracts on all the core hops for all of our products, so we can maintain a consistent product. With the exception of this past year, we fly out to Yakima, Washington every year for the annual hop harvest. You basically select the acreages that your hops are going to come from. And that's probably one of my favorite industry trips each year. It's always really, really cool.
No, that would sound like a lot of fun, and it's a perfect segue into our second beer, which is the HopFit, the Low Cal IPA. Sorry, Kenzie, this isn't the Revamp, but it's the Low Cal IPA HopFit. You guys were, to me, I think one of the first ones that I really remember kind of doing a branding or launching a Low Cal IPA in the area.
Yeah, we always pay attention and watch a lot of the. I'm gonna walk around here and grab one myself, but we always pay attention to trends and what's going on in the market. And Cincinnati, at least when we first opened, was 5 to 10 years behind everywhere on the West Coast. It's not that bad anymore now, but on the West Coast, low cal IPAs and basically healthier for you drinking options were booming, and we really wanted to play on that. So the idea of it being in a slim can, a really beautiful brand. We don't advertise it, but it is gluten removed, so that's an added benefit as well. 100 calories, and I think it's just got a ton of flavor for an IPA.
No, I'm not a big IPA fan, and I that's or I'm becoming one. I'm not sure what's happening here. It could be I'm becoming one, but I like that one. It's not, to me, like crazy hoppy over the top. It's it's a nice mix.
So in January for porch drinking, we did a low cal beer series, and I wrote about HopFit, and I talked to Evan about it. And when we did the interview, I hadn't drank it, tried it yet, and I think I poured one that night. And I remember sending him a message that night and was just like blown away by the taste of it, because some of these low IPA or low calorie beers you get are just lacking in flavor. And I think this one, you can taste the hops and you can taste the flavor. It's if you want an IPA and not all the, obviously the calories or the added stuff, this is probably one of the best ones that I've ever had.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a big jump and a big difference from HopFit to our core year-round IPA. HopFit is year-round, but we consider Tropic Flair like our core IPA. Tropic Flair has something like 270 calories per 12 ounces, whereas HopFit has 100. It's just Tropic Flair has lactose and It's a much fuller bodied beer, whereas this is brewed to be very light, very refreshing, kind of like garage beer, if you will, just with a lot more flavor.
Yeah, once I tried it and I told some people about it, they were very much surprised too how good it is, because everyone's had different low cal IPAs, but some of them are just lacking that IPA flavor that you actually want when you get an IPA. And I think this is one of the most well done low cal IPAs that you get. Again, that that hoppiness and that bitterness and that citrus and floral stuff you want in a good IPA.
Yeah, I definitely.
Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead. I was just gonna echo that, saying that I drank a few Low Cal IPAs, other ones playing volleyball for the last few weeks, and I had a friend actually recommend and bring me one on Saturday of the HopFit, and it just has that extra bit of flavor that some of the other ones don't have.
Yeah, and 100 calories, 100% beer. I like that little tagline on the can. When you, I guess one question I have is there any can size you guys don't have? I mean, like this is I call this like the skinny guy or skinny girl, whatever you want to call it. Then you got this one, and the Radler's different too. So like I'm guessing there was thought though to the can and everything with this, because I'm sure you're going with a certain market in mind of healthy and that easy grabbing beer.
Absolutely. Like I said, that we were really watching that healthier for you trend. So like launch of hard seltzers, the growth of low cal beers, specifically low cal IPAs, the growth of non-alc beers is surprising right now. And there's a whole subcategory of healthier for you options that are known as athletic beers. So they'll be anywhere from 2 to 4% packed with electrolytes, usually some types of fruits. And they're designed for post-workout drinking to basically rehydrate your body faster than if you were to drink water. And so the branding, it was one of the earlier projects we did in-house with our in-house design team, and it's beautiful. And really we thought that, with seltzer booming and everybody kind of looking for that healthier for you option, that skinny can, the slim can screams better for you. And it really just pays homage to that kind of theme. But yeah, we do a lot of different can sizes. We've got the night. If you've never seen a 19.2 ounce can, it's like the coolest thing. I wish I had one here. It's an imperial pint. And so if you look at a 12 ounce can and then a 16 ounce can, it's like almost twice as tall as a 16 ounce can. You just got to drink it fast enough before the beer gets warm.
Oh, you call those like stove pipes? Is that the?
I think that's the Foster's can, which is like,
okay.
Or the oil can. Maybe it is called a stovepipe. I don't know.
I don't know, but I'm curious now to see that. Now you kind of mentioned this because you guys are Braxton Brewing, but you also have seltzers there, and you guys to me were one of the first ones that did seltzers. I think back in 2018 you launched one with the Vive brand. I guess that's just paying attention to the trends that were coming along.
Yeah, that one was a little bit more intricate and interesting, rather. It was a very interesting project for me to work on. I've never, at that point, Jake had just come to me and said, "Hey, these are really taking off. Do you think we can make one?" And I really kind of answered, "I have no idea. I don't know much about how to make one. I don't know much about seltzer at all." So I went out and I tried a couple of the White Claws and the Trulies and whatnot, and they're really good, especially on like a 90-degree day in a pool. Mm-hmm. And so I spent about a year developing Vive. Took about 8 months to get the recipe down, figure out the equipment we needed to buy to do it. And really the play was to go after the national brands. We wanted to have a product that we were proud of and that we were as excited about and we thought could stand up to the White Claws and the Trulies. And at that time, there were a lot of people coming out with hard seltzers, but none of them were really clean, would be a good word for that. Some of them really had like a yellow color or had an off flavor or just weren't that enjoyable. Whereas if you open a White Claw, it was just, this is watermelon, that's it. Like, so it took about 8 months to develop that. We found the equipment from a supplier out in California. Goes through like 12 different steps of filtration. We're actually working on getting that process patented as a process patent, just because our methodology of creating it is so different than what most people in the industry do. And so we have a product that we think can compare to the national competitors. It was a very timely project, but it turned out really well, I think.
Yeah, no, I like I said, it was interesting to see you guys launch that back then, because to me, White Claw and Truly, and what I was paying attention to, hadn't really exploded yet. Because it wasn't like I was paying attention to the trends and things like that. I was just what my friends were drinking, and then all of a sudden, like last year and the year before, that hit, and I'm like, man, they've been doing that for forever, for forever. Another trend that I think you guys were on top of once again was the variety, the pack. You had your toolbox or the toolkit, that you guys I think were doing again back in 18. I think this was later on in 18, but I mean, that's one of the biggest trends. We talked about it on one of our Under the Influence roundtables earlier this month, and that's one of the areas of growth, big growth in the industry. And you guys have been doing it now for 2-3 years.
Yeah, that 12 variety pack is really, really popular. And what you've seen in the last year with the pandemic is people buying in volume. Early on, especially, it was, hey, I have to go to the grocery store. I only want to go once, so I'm going to get this 12 pack or this 24 pack. And the addition of variety made it a lot more useful. We try to switch the variety pack up every year, change a beer or two in there and try to really mix it up. I think the variety pack right now is a really good representation of our brand. It's got Blown Gasket, Tropic Flare, Garage Beer, and Summer Trip. It might actually be Scooter now, because Scooter came out as one of our seasonals this year. We had released it previously in smaller batches, but yeah, Vive and the variety pack, because even Vive is in a variety pack. That's 95% of the hard seltzer market is 12 pack variety, 3 cans of 4 flavors. We just launched a new one, the new variety pack, Vive Punch. So right now, what's really popular is all the sweeter varieties of hard seltzer. So there's a bunch of tea-based hard seltzers, lemonade-based hard seltzers, and we wanted to take kind of a different approach and find some white space in the category. The branding is beautiful. The liquids are really, really good. The original punch tastes like high C. If you like fruit punch, I mean, it's dead on Hawaiian punch. And so it's a lot of fun to play around with because your possibilities are limitless.
Yeah, I tried the original punch flavor of the punch seltzer, and it tastes like high C. Like it's you don't even taste that it's alcoholic. It's like, wow, it kind of takes you back to your childhood and drinking Kool-Aid in the summer. So you guys did a really good job with matching the flavor of a good Kool-Aid or fruit punch, especially with the original flavor. I haven't gotten to the other ones yet.
Thank you.
Yeah, now we'll go to our third and final one, unless Seth, do you have something you want to add there?
Yeah. I was actually going to ask Evan. So we've talked about seltzers and lagers and IPAs, and I think the next one's a Radler coming up. Is there anything that y'all don't make at Braxton?
Yeah, we don't do anything spirits based at the moment. So vodka, bourbon, whatever it might be. We've toyed with the idea, but the tax structure on spirits-based drinks, especially prepackaged, like ready-to-drink canned cocktails, is significantly higher than that of a malt beverage. Tax jumps to be the number one raw material, if you will, in a spirits-based cocktail. And so, that's, wide spectrum of beers. We've not ever released a true sour or wild ale, but we have some projects that we're working on. So hopefully we can get into that sector of beer in the near future. Punch, Vive, beer. I'm a lager man. I like lager, a lot of lager, any type of lager. But I've been chasing hops lately too. So got to have a good balance, I suppose.
Yeah, I was gonna say you all run the spectrum, because you all make and you can things too that I think others don't ever think about, because you had a Dortmunder there for a while. You got Hefeweizen. Those are canned, but not everyone on your scale does those types of beers, and I just always am amazed at what might come out from you all.
Yeah, our original goal when we opened was to have a very wide portfolio of beer, so that if somebody walked in and didn't necessarily know what they wanted, we had such a wide variety of flavor profiles that we could find a beer for them. And I still think that stands true. It's kind of how we approach different styles and recipes when we're brewing at all of our locations, and really focusing on whether it's innovation or pastry stouts or Mexican lager or whatever it might be. We really try to focus on the full gamut.
And then our third beer and final beer, but we're not done just yet with everything, is the Scooter, which I didn't even know you guys had. It's a blood orange Radler. This is a 1 pint can, so we've got the nice little tall guy, 1 pint, regular can. So you want to talk a little bit about the Radler once you get that poured?
Yeah. Scooter is a blood orange Radler, similar to a summer shandy, if you will. So it's a sweeter beer. A shandy or a Radler is usually a beer and juice blended to give you basically just a lighter bodied, sweeter version of whatever beer you would add the juice to. Really classic example of this style is Schopenhoffer, which is a grapefruit shandy or grapefruit Radler. And we really wanted to take that play. We had launched 2 or 3 of these in the tap room, and blood orange was by far the favorite. We've been making this beer for at least 3 years, if not 4. But usually it's like a one tank batch, drop it. When it's gone, it's gone. It was like the number one asked question in the tap room was, when's Scooter going to come back? When is Scooter going to come back?
I've probably been one of those people who's asked.
And we got that question so much, and when we did actually drop it, it sold out so fast we started canning it. And the problem with cans originally is because it has juice in it, real fruit juice, it has sugar. So with the addition of Vive, we've added a tunnel pasteurizer, which will prevent the beer from fermenting in the can. Yeast would naturally eat the sugar, could potentially cause the can to explode, if you will. So that pasteurizer allows us to put this beer in a can.
No, I appreciate that, because I don't like to ever worry about if a can's going to explode on me. That's a big topic that might be on one of our Under the Influence series at some point. But this is I've never really had a Radler before. It's definitely on the sweeter side because of obviously that juice and beer combo. But that's really, the blood orange is a really nice combo with the beer. Like that's just a wonderful mixture there.
Yeah, it's really good. Definitely a summer beer. But no, I do enjoy it in small doses because it is very sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had several blood orange beers in the past, but none that's like that much blood orange. It's really good. But yeah, like you said, the summer beer, I could see myself drinking a couple of these on the boat this summer for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Where did you guys get the name Scooter from?
It's an excellent question. I think the worst part of the beer business, you mean beer? It's got to be the worst part. My guess is it was somebody in our marketing department. When we used to have new beers, because we were coming out with new beers all the time, we would go, the production team would create the beer. We'd give, the stats, so ABV, IBU, color, a tasting description, aroma, flavor, that kind of stuff. We'd give it to the marketing department and they'd go, okay, Scooter or blown gasket or what have you. And we've even gotten away from that unless it's released from Braxton. Like all of our Braxton Labs beers are peach guava hibiscus goes. It just calls out certain things in the beer just to keep it simple. Because naming beers is oddly difficult.
I like that. I can see that. I mean, I've heard stories of people just throwing out every name in the book, hoping that one sticks eventually. So,
Yeah.
No, I like that. And you mentioned like the smoothie beers and the Labs beers. Y'all have 4 locations within 5 miles of each other. Now, granted, they're all different. Now, I haven't been over to Cincinnati, so I can't talk about how that one is. But you've got your flagship tap room, your main location there in Covington. You got the Labs location, which is kind of what it sounds like. You do, I'm guessing, some more experimental stuff there. Then you have the Barrel House, which is where you're at right now. So you want to talk a little bit about how you ended up with 4 places in a short amount of time, so close to each other?
Absolutely. Our operations manager told me, and basically all of our leadership team, that no more tap rooms in the 275 loop. Like, I'm not going to rule it out, but they are so close to one another. Barrel House is about 3 miles from the Covington location, and my house sits smack dab in the middle of those two. Well, a little bit closer to Barrel House, so I'm here a little bit more frequently. So we launched in Covington, and our goal was to always grow. We wanted to be a regional player. We wanted Braxton Brewing Company to be a regional name in beer, and we never really, at the time, hadn't discussed what that would look like, whether it was multiple tap rooms or a production facility or what have you. And we got word that 8 Ball Brewing in the back of Party Source, was closing. And we were fortunate enough to work a deal with them to take over the lease and the equipment and move into that space. And the idea being that Covington could focus on our core beers and be really just for production, because that facility is scheduled out so far, really turning tanks. We brew Monday through Saturday, 3 to 4 batches a day, filling tanks that are 120 barrels. Our brew house is 25 barrels. And so rough math, that is like 1,800 cases of beer per tank, if that makes sense. And so we wanted a place where we could, instead of having to schedule around production to keep up with the innovation side of things, having a facility to itself for innovation. And so that made perfect sense, that we were able to grow into that facility, expand, focus on innovation. And still to this day, same brewer over there, Zach Benke, does a phenomenal job, runs the facility by himself. He's got a 15-barrel system over there, and comes out with a ton of great stuff. We do 3 labs releases a week at this point, including our smoothie series, which came out of the labs facility. So he's killing it over there, cranking it out. Then a couple years later, we have an offsite warehouse in Ludlow. That's like the 5th facility that never gets talked about because it's just the logistics center. It literally just shipping and receiving. So as soon as product is packaged, it's put on one of our box trucks, moved over to the warehouse, sits in a giant cold box until it goes out the door to a distributor. That warehouse at the time was getting overloaded. So if you think about all the beers we release and all the labels we have, every time you order a printed can, you have to order a full truckload. So it's 25 pallets, it's 205,000 cans. And so our warehouse was full of cans. We were running out of space. We got approached by one of our investors who was involved in the deal here at Barrel House that took over the old grocery store that was here. And they had this loading dock area and a 20,000 square foot basement that they didn't know what to do with. And it made sense. We had a pilot system. Our brewery in Covington was just busting at the seams. So we moved our pilot system to Barrel House. We moved all of our bourbon barrel storage from the warehouse to Barrel House and a bunch of other miscellaneous storage type things. So really Barrel House, while it's one of my favorite tap rooms. I kind of took like a sabbatical and helped build it, like this barrel stave wall behind me. Woodworking is kind of a hobby of mine. So I helped build this, and that's partly why it's one of my favorites, plus being so close to my house.
I second that. I think the Barrel House.
Space deal.
The Barrel House.
I'm sorry.
I second that. I think the Barrel House is my favorite of your, I haven't been to the Cincinnati location, but of your 3 in Northern Kentucky, you did a fantastic job with the interior, or I don't want to say the interior design, the design of it and all the barrels and the touches of the barrels, because it is the barrel room. And it's funny, I remember when I first walked in, I was like, I thought this is the Barrel House. Where are all your barrels at? And they're like, oh, they're in the basement. And I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense.
That was actually one of the concerns, because there wasn't, the tap room itself is only like 2,000 square feet. So it's really small and you can't really see any of the barrels. And our goal eventually is to do like a self-guided tour downstairs through the barrels. Just haven't got that part set up. So yeah, Barrel House was really just a space play. 20,000 square feet in the basement, Cool tap room because Fort Mitchell is a very kind of walkable neighborhood. Lots of families walking out and about, and it's got a big patio. So that's how Barrel House came about. Cincinnati, most recent addition, kind of similar to Labs. Got word that 8 Ball was closing, and we were able to kind of swoop in and make a similar deal work, kind of like Labs. Excuse me, really carbonated. Sorry. So that deal kind of worked out. We always, since we opened and after we acquired Labs, we've always wanted a location in Cincinnati. We'd been looking for a while. We didn't know what the best move was going to be, and that kind of fell into our laps. If you've not been there, it's beautiful. The guys and gals at 3 Points did such an incredible job building that space. The technology aspect of what that tap room can do with the music and the lights. There's like mood lighting that's tied to the music, so it'll change colors, and I mean it's crazy. And then the whole place opens up, so there's accordion style windows and garage doors throughout the entire thing, so you can just, on a nice day, you can open the entire tap room. And so currently we have a brewer with a 15-barrel brew house over there. He really helps Zach Benke with Labs products out, so we can keep that innovation going, and really release new products.
Yeah, I can't wait to check that one out and see that space. One thing that you've mentioned a lot of is you've talked about family. Your brother's part of the business. Your dad's part of the business. What's it like working with family? Because I know my family. I love them.
Yeah. There's good days and there's bad days. Most of them are good days. The first several years it was really hard. We're, at the end of this month, Braxton will be 6 years old. We've learned to work together and take a step back when things tend to get a little frustrating or problems arise. We've also learned really well how to work together, but it wasn't always easy. Jake and I butt heads quite a bit. We're brothers. That's what brothers do. And my dad was kind of always there to be the referee. And so I wouldn't trade it for the world at this point, just because you get to know your family in a whole new way that I don't think you would really get to experience if you didn't work together. But that being said, Thanksgiving is a board meeting. Christmas is a board meeting too. You're never really, like, family vacations are still working, but it's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I could see that. Now, one other thing that recently happened for you, I believe, is the Forbes 30 under 30, for the food and drink, and I think you were one of 30, and there were 800 nominations or something in that category nationwide. So that had to be a pretty cool honor.
Yeah, it was blew my mind, to be honest with you. Incredibly humbling, and never thought I'd be in a list quite like that. I, of course, tip my hat off to my team as well. It can be really difficult doing what we do, but when you have a team like I have, it really makes it awesome to wake up. I mean, first, being in beer is awesome as it is, but the team really makes everything possible. I think it really pays homage to that, and like I said, never would have thought I would have been in anything like it. I'm pretty sure my brother nominated me, but it was never confirmed. I just got an email one day, hey, you were nominated, fill this out. And then when I got the call that I had been accepted, it was insane. Very good day. And so it's neat to kind of see hard work pay off, if that makes sense. To be kind of recognized as a mover and shaker in the food and beverage industry, specifically categories such as beer or hard seltzer. That is a very competitive industry. When we opened Braxton, there were, I want to say 4, maybe 5,000 breweries in the U.S., and now there's over 10,000. Most of which are primarily probably making a seltzer as well. because that segment took off like a rocket. So it just really, really cool.
No, and from everything I've had from you all, it's well deserved. I mean, Seth and I and some of our friends went up there and enjoyed the Igloo Bar. Right around New Year's, that was a blast. Your rooftop bar. I mean, you guys. I just feel like you guys you're always like one step ahead of everyone. Is how I would put it, and I like that.
I appreciate that. It's not always easy, but it is fun.
I like when I talked to you about winning the 30 under 30 award, and I think one of the most interesting things about you is you don't have a college degree.
They were not like, they weren't beating around the bush in that Forbes magazine at all on that one.
I think it said like Northern Kentucky University, like unfinished or something, and and you see all these other people, it's like Harvard, Yale, and then you're the only brewery person or brewery representative, and it says college or something. So I think that's a really interesting aspect, is you are not college educated and you still built this successful, company and brand, and you have 4 tap rooms now.
Yeah, it is crazy. I will finish college at one point in time. I've got like a semester left. I tried going back like 3 years ago, and it was right around the time we had got labs up and running, and it just didn't work. Finished that semester and then just stopped again. But I'm close. I will finish at some point. School was never easy for me. I love math and science, but the thought of all the kind of gen ed courses you have to take to get into your specialty, I don't excel when I'm not fully interested in something.
Well, thankfully now they offer classes on actually brewing and distilling as well. So
yeah,
people are interested in that, they can go straight into it. Whereas probably when you were in college, it wasn't even an option or something people thought about.
I've done some technical training through Siebel, which is a brewing academy as well. But those came like year 1, year 2 at Braxton, to kind of formalize some of because most of my knowledge in beer is self-taught. To really get some book smarts and some real science behind it, to answer I know how, but why, really helped.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. And I also just love how much you mentioned it. You love math and science, and now look what you turned your math and science into, is some pretty cool products, and ones that millions of people get to enjoy.
Yeah, appreciate that.
So before we wrap up, anyone have any final thoughts, or what was their favorite tonight? Anything like that?
Well, I'll start. Being from Northern Kentucky, I think I'm in Fort Wright, and I think you are as well, Evan. Just seeing Braxton open up in Covington and kind of turn that. I mean, you all took a chance opening in that area. It wasn't really an area where a lot of people went and walked around, and there weren't many restaurants. And I think once they saw how successful Braxton was in Covington, a lot of other restaurants and businesses followed. And that is such a cool area down there in Covington right now. When 5 years ago it wasn't, before you guys opened. So it's really cool to see the transition of Covington, that Braxton had such a big impact on it. And when you think Northern Kentucky beer right now, where I'm from, it's mostly Braxton, which is really cool. And you've inspired, I think, a lot of other breweries to open in the area and be successful as well, just because, of course it's easy to go across the river into Cincinnati, but it's also easy to now stay on Kentucky side and go to the many breweries on our side of the river, the better side, in my opinion.
Yeah, Evan, I had one last question for you. And before I ask it, I want to preface it with, I'm an engineer, so my brain works a little different. But for some reason, one of the things you said stuck with me was going from brewing, 10 gallons at a time to hundreds of a gallon at a time now. Is there been any beer that you started in your garage that you went back to and tried again to try to brew? And was there any scalability issues or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Storm is actually a homebrew recipe. That was one of the first beers I won medals with. It was really the beer from a homebrewing scale that I was using to kind of nail the process. So keep the recipe the same, and really, it was one of the only beers that I brewed at home 20 or 30 times, just taking detailed notes on everything that you would need to be paying attention to make sure the beer was consistent. And so that was the number one selling beer we had for years until we launched Garage Beer. Scalability wise, one that comes back every now and then is Dead Blow. It's it's macerated dates. The first time we brewed it with macerated dates, we threw the dates in the mash mixer, transferred over to the lauter tun, which lauter tun has this false bottom, so it's a perforated screen. Well, the macerated dates sunk straight to the bottom. The mash was on top, and it basically formed this like half-inch thick like gel coating, and we never got to finish that beer. We had to dump it and go back to the drawing board. Things that work on a homebrew scale don't necessarily translate perfectly to a professional brewing scale. Our date supplier was actually they have a product now that they take those macerated dates, they dehydrate them, and they turn them into a powder. So we were able to get the same product, just a different process to date. Still the same flavor.
Gotcha, that's really cool.
Yeah, I like that. And you just never know what you're going to remake or bring back one day. And I also want to congratulate you on first kid coming soon. Is that correct?
Thank you. She's 20 weeks next week. So we'll go to the ultrasound appointment next week. It's very exciting.
So are you one that's going to find out boy, girl early or no?
We're having a little girl.
Okay. So you're having a little girl. Well, I've got one and enjoy and just be prepared for sassiness at a young age.
Have you decided on the name, or will that be as hard as naming a beer?
It's not as hard as naming a beer. My wife and I have it narrowed down to 2, but we've agreed to wait until after the ultrasound appointment to pick one. We're kind of split at the moment. I'm leaning one way, she's leaning another, but I think we'll find a happy middle.
There you go. There you go. I like that. And my final question to you, Evan, is what's next for Braxton?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. We just released Vive Punch. That was the last 5 or 6 months of my life. Just heads down creating those 4 flavors. Working on a couple new beer recipes that we want to get out in cans on a Braxton scale, so a seasonal, couple thousand cases here or there. Always looking to grow and expand. Now that we've although it wasn't decided at the time that we were really going down the path of having multiple tap rooms, I believe that's kind of one of our points of focus now, because we really think that tap rooms are our biggest marketing asset. Really kind of gets you into the brand experience. We can kind of control everything from the ambiance, the lighting, the music, and that's really important to us. So as we look to grow and expand into new markets and new distribution territories, the thought process of having a potential tap room in more satellite locations to where, while Braxton might be a regional beer, you may never have been to one of our tap rooms. So if you were able to drop a tap room in a random city that you're distributing in, you can give people that experience. We don't have anything set in stones yet, but that's kind of how we're thinking about it. But yeah, just keep making really good beer and seltzer and see where it goes. Really excited to get the tap rooms back opened up to normal levels. But yeah, all in due time. I got my first vaccine 2 weeks ago. I get my second shot in a couple weeks. Really excited to kind of just slowly ease on into normalcy again, if we'll see that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I feel like you almost were going to tell us a city that you were thinking of there, but then you decided against it. So
I'm going to guess it's going to be outside 275 this time.
Yeah, probably.
So narrows it down a little bit.
Well, Evan, Kinsey, Seth, thank you all for another fun flight night. And Evan, wish you nothing but the best.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
I just love flight nights. That was a blast. I really appreciate Evan sharing those Braxton beers with us, and Kinsey and Seth coming on to share in those as well and chat about Braxton and all the cool things that they've got going on up there. We've got a few more flight nights already on the books. but our goal is one a month for the rest of the year, so we'll see how that goes. You'll just have to stay tuned. And if you're looking for some cool things, check out our social media pages at Hop Spirits, all one word, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And on our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube pages, you can find our Give It a Try 60-second highlights, where we just did Still Austin the Musician this past weekend. We got a cool one for you this weekend. We drop those every Sunday night. And who do we have on next week's episode? Well, it's no joke, even though it is April Fool's Day. We have Still Austin, their CEO, Chris Seals, and their head distiller, John Schrappel. It's a very fun episode, and I can't wait to share that one with you. Remember, check out our partners in crime, One Sip Beer Review, at One Sip Beer Review on Instagram. And until next time, cheers, everyone.